Throughout my own life and fitness journey, I have had the privilege of meeting incredible people who've shared valuable insights on mindset, health, fitness, and spiritual growth. The profound impact of this knowledge on my own life has inspired me to share it with all of you. I'm Erica Sweeney, host and founder of My Fit Tribe podcast. Join me as we explore inspiring conversations with experts, thought leaders, and everyday heroes who offer their stories and practical tips to help you on your own journey. From nutrition and fitness to mental well-being and personal or spiritual growth, our mission is to empower you to take charge of your health and live your best life. We are more than just a podcast, we are a community. Through coaching, a wealth of shared knowledge, and a strong support network, we are here to guide and encourage you every step of the way. Come be a part of our tribe. In this week's episode of the My Fit Tribe podcast, I'm joined by Joshua Hockett, a coach and exercise physiologist who's spent decades in the wellness industry, truly talking the talk and walking the walk. We dive into his insights on mindset, fitness, nutrition, and what it really means to work toward becoming the best version of yourself. Whether you're just starting your wellness journey or always looking for ways to improve, there's no doubt that you'll take something valuable from this conversation. I know I did. Let's get into it. Our guest today is Joshua Hockett, a seasoned strength and conditioning coach with nearly 20 years of experience in tactical performance, athlete development, and nutrition. A competitive powerlifter and educator, Joshua brings a wealth of knowledge and real-world grit to the conversation. Joshua, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Really glad to be here.
Yeah, so excited to talk to you. So we go back a long time. We were just talking before the show started that Joshua's sister, Catherine, and my oldest son played soccer together back in middle school. And Catherine played with the boys and better than most of the boys. So she was very athletic. Clearly, it runs in your family. But let's talk a little bit about your journey when you were young. What got you in athletics? What was your history?
Yeah, and I think that's the poetic irony of it all is that I had to struggle through my journey to become what I am today. And a lot of people wouldn't think so. I was an overweight, unathletic, by all means, obese adolescent. I was 5'10", 240 pounds coming out of 7th grade, going into 8th grade. And eventually basically just hit kind of rock bottom. Like I was sick and tired of being sick and tired and not athletic and not being able to perform, not having a lot of self-confidence. And I said, all right, so I need to do something. Like the pro-con ratio tipped in favor of let's go towards the pro because the cons were starting to build up. Just did not enjoy it. I wanted to be a good athlete. I really did. And the lifestyle I was living was not conducive for that. So my dad was always a good role model for healthy living, working out, exercise, eating right. And I just asked him the basic questions. What can I do? And it wasn't earth shattering, believe it or not. It's like here, he's just living his lifestyle healthfully. Well, eat a little bit better, cut down on the junk food, change the diet soda, start lifting some weights, go for walks. Within a year, I went from 240, 5'10", I did shoot up a little bit, so a growth spurt helped. I went up to 6 foot, down to 210. And I learned so much and felt such improvements from it. It sold itself like this fitness and health thing is awesome. This is great. Girls talk to me. Guys give me more respect. They want me on their team. I don't get picked last. I'm able to play in the games more. Coaches are putting me in. And this is still just the end of 8th grade. And I'm like, well, what if I went a little bit further and, got a little bit more into the science of it and more strategic and formal with my training? What would happen then? Lo and behold, it got even better yet. I stayed right around 200, 210 pounds. I got a little bit taller and my athleticism shot up. And I was just loving it because now I'm a starter on the football team. I'm the lead wrestler for my weight class and I'm, interacting with girls more than I used to. It's amazing how much incentive it is to be able to talk to the girls when you're that age, but it worked. And from that point forward, getting that taste of like, this is what happens when you train strategically, you live a healthy lifestyle, you eat better, you sleep better. I ate that up. And so by the time I was done with high school, I'm like, okay, I've got 2 aunts and uncles back up there in your neck of the woods at that time, McFarland, Wisconsin, that were gym teachers. I'm like, I'm going to be a gym teacher, teach other kids how to be active and do sports. After my first class in college on intro to kinesiology and allied health professions, I was like, yeah, maybe this gym teacher thing isn't what I want to do. I want to go into like exercise science, personal training, strength conditioning, the science of training and human adaptation towards athletic development. And it never stopped to this day. I'm still a student of the exercise and health professions. And, I consider myself a student of the of the field that never stops. I've gotten credentials and degrees along the way, but that's originally how it started. I was not a gifted athlete. I did not have genetics on my side. I had to go through my periods of struggle to get to a point where that transformation ultimately formed the bedrock of the interest and the fascination that I have with fitness and health today.
So backing up a little bit, you said you were in 8th grade when you kind of had that epiphany. There are a lot of people in all times of their life, whether it be at that pivotal young point where you're trying to feel accepted, even to adulting at every step of the way where you might feel insecure, not well, tired, you name it. Not everybody's able to take a step forward to make a change. So what do you think it was for you at such a young age to be able to realize I need to make a change to feel better?
Yeah, and I think it came down to I wanted something else more than staying with the status quo. Staying the way I wasn't valuable enough, or it wasn't worth staying overweight, unhealthy, not being good at sports, not having the self-confidence that I wanted. Staying there was not what I wanted. But even if it meant a little bit of sacrifice, a little bit of discomfort, it meant the fear of the unknown and changes, it was worth it because I wanted to be confident and popular and athletic so bad that drive, that pull, that yearning was stronger than staying where I was. The easy choice, the non-fearful choice would be like, well, I can just stay like this. I guess that's the way it's going to be. I get to eat what I want. I might not be athletic, but I don't have to work out or anything. I can stay like this for another few years. That option did not sit well with me. So there was just this inflection point of stay how you are, the easy, simple, non-fearful choice. Make some changes. There's going to be sacrifice. There will be work. It was worth it. And I say this because I was there at that inflection point. I try to pull that out with my current athletes or patients or general public members. What is it that you want so much, so bad that it's worth making changes for? Short-term sacrifices, a little bit of discomfort to get there. Ultimately, when you get to that thing you're craving, it's going to be worth it because you want it that bad. That's what I try to instill in those individuals that are looking for change, but it might not be that easy as it was for me in 8th grade. I don't want to say it wasn't easy, but there's definitely people that have it harder than I did. That's for sure. I'm aware of that.
Well, I think it's hard to, first you have to get to the point where you realize that you're not well, whether that be mentally or physically or both. And then you have to realize that how to make a change, or that to make a change, and then what it will take to get there. And doing that at that young age, that takes a lot of strength and willpower and acknowledgement, again, even for adults. I found too that it's not just even thinking, well, I wish I felt better. Well, maybe if I did this, where it really comes down to writing down what specifically I want to feel better and how I'm going to get there. That's just something we can get into as well.
Yeah.
So one thing I love about your journey too is, like you mentioned, all of your training and your continuing education. Every other day it feels like you're like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm learning this, I'm going here, I'm doing this things, which is so crucial to helping other people where you continue to learn things. So once you went to school for kinesiology, how has your trajectory changed throughout the years?
Well, that initial change was, going from the intent of Phy-Ed. By the end of freshman year, it was, nope, we're going to go exercise science, something within the fitness professions. I did personal training all throughout college from my freshman year through even graduate school for that matter. I really got hooked on the idea of strength conditioning because I worked with strength conditioning coaches in college, and the idea of actually being an athletic performance coach, not necessarily a sport coach, but being a strength and conditioning coach for athletic development, with the idea of doing something like that at a big university. I was dead set on actually at UW-Madison. After I finished my graduate program, I interned there, and I was dead set. I want to be a D1 strength coach, ideally Wisconsin, just because that's where I'm born and raised. Didn't work out that way, but through a friend of a friend, the whole networking thing, I ended up getting a role as a strength conditioning coach at Mizzou, which was my first role out of college. And I really liked that. I enjoyed being part of various athletic teams, helping young athletes, student athletes, develop into the athletes and people that they were going to become. And I'm still, to this day, I would consider myself by title a strength conditioning coach because I've done that more than any other role that I've held. However, that I never stopped being a personal trainer or fitness specialist either, doing remote coaching with clients, which I still do to this day and have for the past decade. That's tapered down a little bit with my full-time roles that I have now, but sports nutrition, I still do that with some athletes and individuals. Powerlifting coaching. My biggest role change was tactical after I finished at Mizzou, I took a role with, I did a little bit within corporate fitness for about a year and a half with Monsanto, the old Monsanto, now Bayer Crop Science, that was in St. Louis. I learned very quickly that the admin side of that type of a role was not what lit the fire for me. I needed to be a practitioner. I'm wired to be a hands-on tactician. And that role really exposed that to me. Like I need to be hands-on. That's just what I want to do. I don't want to be the admin person behind the scenes. Did a role in Italy, or I should say I did 5 years with the US Navy as a fitness specialist on 2 different aircraft carriers. That was my first exposure to the tactical side, and I absolutely loved it. Just enjoyed being someone who helped military members, in that case, Navy and Marines, do their jobs better. And although I'm not active duty, I'm helping these armed forces members do their jobs better. My country is better for it. I was going to go Army outside of high school, so I'm a bleeding heart patriot. In a roundabout way, I've spent 9 years working with military since then without ever being active duty a single day in my life. So I find that kind of interesting. To sum it up, I did a year in Italy with the paratrooper group. Love that. I did 5 years with Booz Allen Hamilton, who I finished up with this April as a strength conditioning coach for the Fire Academy at Goodfellow Air Force Base. And then I did about a year and a half of Army research after that with Booz Allen, looking at human performance literature. And then that just wrapped up in April, which brings me to where I'm at now. Since August, I've been a telehealth exercise physiologist specializing with musculoskeletal health. So it has morphed over the years, indeed.
Wow, what a resume. That's amazing. I'm blown away. So all the experience that you've had has brought you to another thing. What now has brought you to the telehealth side, and what are you finding is most rewarding about that?
Yeah, and to put that in kind of a nutshell, because it gets long, but basically I wanted to stay in tactical. I still love the tactical space. And when I say tactical, it's first responders, military, fire, police, and military. That's a tactical population. And they've even gotten away from the term tactical athlete because they don't consider themselves athlete. When you talk to them, that's just their job, but they happen to have tactical physical domains that need developed. When I finished with Booz Allen, I wanted to try and find those roles. It was going to require us to relocate and go somewhere else. I did not want to move my family because my wife loves her job that she just got not long ago. She makes good money. We've got good work-life balance. So I had to, unfortunately, which is the truth, I had to say, maybe tactical isn't my thing, because if they're, at least right now, that's not going to be what I'm going to land. Because if I take any other role, which they were out there, and to this day there's openings, we will have to relocate for me to take those positions, and probably take a bit of a pay cut to do so. I'm going to ask my wife to, quit her job, move away from her family. It just wasn't going to happen. So I opened the doors. What else can I do with my background and experience that I would enjoy? I don't want to just take a job for a paycheck. I genuinely want to enjoy and have meaning in my work. I found this role through the Fit Insider jobs postings, which was ironic because I was on a few other ones, but I had followed Vori Health for about 2 years before I ever even thought about working for them, just because I liked their concept and I could see potential with the company. So when I saw an opening for their first exercise physiologist, I was like, well, look at that. I could do this role based on what they're asking for. I like the company. I like where it's going. I've followed them for a while, applied, got the interview, didn't really think, they're going to see me as the strength coach that's worked with military, that they probably won't even take me. They made an offer within 2 weeks of my first interview. And I was like, okay, maybe this will work. And it worked out great because we didn't have to move. I can do my job basically from anywhere. And I was concerned with it being telehealth and all remote that I might get bored with it soon. That was my biggest concern because I've always been in person. And it turns out I actually really enjoy it, and it's more engaging than I thought it would. They're all video based. I'm literally in my home office where I get to, I wear scrubs. It's interesting because I never thought even 5 years ago or 2 years ago I'd ever be wearing scrubs as a clinician. But I'm on video showing patients how to move better, how to do movements, how to correct deficiencies, how to make modifications in exercises. I'm building exercise programs they can do at home or in the gym. They really have their act together for a system that allows for telehealth to work for an exercise physiologist based role. And it's just as engaging as it would be in person without, the physical contact piece. Would I prefer in person? Absolutely. But it's the next closest thing I have found for an exercise physiologist to offer musculoskeletal care and health.
There's been so much advancement with technology, and now we've got AI coming into part, but giving people opportunity and access to healthcare, to coaches, to trainers, to provide a more thorough approach to wellness. So I think that's really cool to see that there are these companies that are taking wellness and really going for it. And I don't know that people all realize that there are these options out there. Who is your client? Is it someone who has had an injury? Is it someone who's dealing with, ergonomics at work? Like what is your focus?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I was actually quite curious about that myself coming in. Like, what exactly is the population that I'll see? And they basically said it's all Gen Pop. So you're going to get everyone from, the geriatric population who's in their 70s and 80s that are just looking to maintain activities of daily living, work on some balance, fall risk. But then I've also got, it's a minority, but I have a handful of individuals that are men or women. I've got one that's getting ready for a marathon in 2 weeks, and I'm helping her get ready for that. I've got another guy who wants to get his strength up, his bench press and his deadlift up by 50 pounds in the next 8 to 10 weeks. I've got an older gentleman who's an advent skier, very good skier, and I'm helping him with some performance outcomes. So I see the whole gamut. A lot of it is managing a program that was built by a physical therapist, making sure it's progressed properly. Some of them, I'm working with them from scratch. They've been discharged from PT. Now they're basically all mine, so to speak, where it's just fitness enhancement. It could be movement deficiency, pain mitigation. One thing I'll put out there is I don't do diagnostics as an EP. I can't diagnose anything or treat it, but I can do exercise assessment, movement analysis, performance enhancement, strength development, body composition, manipulation, those types of things. So I still get to use all the tools in the arsenal, but I actually like the diversity of patients that I get to work with because no two are the same, and it keeps each day a little bit dynamic. And I like being that catalyst that can help to get through to that person to live a better life if what we're doing is working for them.
Living a better life. There are a lot of people, which we kind of touched on in the beginning, who may be comfortable or not willing to move forward to live a healthier lifestyle. And again, it's not all about how you look, in my opinion. It's how you feel, getting that energy and having that strength to help support the aging process, et cetera, et cetera. So with all of your history and all of your background, like what advice would you give to anybody listening who's kind of stuck, who maybe knows they should be making a change, but not quite the point of making a decision to do something different?
Yeah, and that really comes down to, and this is largely what I do with patients, is using the 4 stages of readiness in the trans theoretical model, and we're all on that at some point, depending on the task. But when it comes to their health, their fitness, or wellness, are they pre-contemplation? Are they contemplation? Are they preparation? Are they in action? Or are they in maintenance? And after some talk and dialogue, I'll kind of find out where they are. And my job is to look at the ambivalence that they might be expressing. We all know we want health. We want to feel good, sleep well, have energy, not be in pain. We want those things. But the ambivalence is we want this, yet I'm doing this. I want A, but I'm doing B, and I'm being my own obstacle. And that's because change is hard. It is not easy. There is unknown. There's concerns and there's fear, and there's struggle with that. So I try to move them along that ambivalence spectrum of, why do you really want this? And what's going to happen if you stay the same? What's the littlest thing you could start doing today to start making forward progress? And with those baby steps and getting inside their head, so to speak, and moving them into change talk, change thoughts versus sustained talk, they start to see, I am doing something that gets in the way of my weight loss. I do actually have time to get a 10-minute walk in. It doesn't all have to be in the gym. I do have a way to get more sleep in. Those little things start to get unlocked. And when they start to feel those changes causing benefits, I try to get them in that upward spiral where it's like, well, then what if I started hydrating? What if I cut out soda? What if I cut down alcohol? What if I did a 20-minute walk? It starts building, and then I'm there to, I say, fuel the motivation, because I truly don't think I can create motivation for a person. That must come from them. But I can help to pour on that fuel to keep that fire burning hotter and hotter, to keep the motivation going, giving them the encouragement, the affirmations, the pats on the back, the hey, you're doing great, the revising of goals, that kind of stuff. So anybody can start anywhere, but it comes down to the point of what do you want and why? And then what can you stop doing to be your own worst enemy, or start doing to be proactive with those steps? And it's often the littlest thing that you could do every day that starts to get that ball rolling. It does not have to be this big revamping, this revolutionary change. I have to cut out this cold turkey. What's 2 or 3 little things we could start doing right now today to get you moving forward? And then let's stick with that. Usually tips the ball in the right direction to move forward. We can always go from there, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, that momentum is crucial. And One thing too that I've learned, which can be frustrating, is that, you create this momentum and you do these things. Well, then your body adjusts or something happens, and then you got to do more, and then you got to keep learning, and you got to keep adjusting, and you got to be more active, or you got to do more strength training. But which I love, that it's always a process, and there's always tweaking you can do and always improvement you can do. So while it can seem overwhelming at first, I think it's important to look at it as a journey. Like, what can I do now to feel even better?
And that's exactly right. It is a journey. It's a process. And that's why I like using process goals just as much as outcome goals. It's not just about crossing the finish line. It's the whole journey there that I try to get them to enjoy the process there, to find worth, find value, find meaning out of the process to get there too. And if you can enjoy what you do each and every day in some way, shape, or form, getting there is going to be as fun as the destination of itself. And you look back and you can be like, you know what, that was worth it. This was so worth it to get here. It was hard. It had its pain points, but it was worth it. If you just have the finish line as your goal, it can be like, oh my God, that's so far at the end. This is daunting.
Right. But the finish line can be really fun too, for sure.
It absolutely can, and it should be. And you should be excited when you get there and hit those goals and milestones, but then look at what's the next finish line that you can tackle.
Well, let's talk about that a bit, because that can be challenging when you have someone who's set a goal that is ambitious for them and they hit that goal and then they do, okay, what now? And finding, something different that will give them that same motivation. How do you approach that with your clients?
That's a great question. I think the epitome example of that would be is when I did and coached individuals for physique-based sports, which you're familiar with too, figure, fitness, bikini, bodybuilding, all that kind of thing. It's a grueling process to get there, and there's a date on the calendar when we're going to be ready. But then when they get there and do it, whether it's their first show, in particular their first show, or even their second, third, fourth, whatever, once it's done, a lot of times there is no process afterwards. It's like, okay, show's done and I did my thing. Now what? Where's the fire? What do I do after this? There's all the post-competition planning and that thing. And I've seen how that can go awry really easy if there is no post-competition plan or post-goal plan. Like, I've lost my direction or point. I don't have a bearing. I don't have a why. And people can regress. They can stagnate. They can plateau. And I always try to work with my patients or individuals, or my advice would be is, once you get there, what is the next plan? Do you stay with the original goal of, I want to lose 20 pounds, I want to get my A1C down, whatever the goal was? Okay, I got that. Great. Can I get it even lower? Can I run even further? Can I lift even more? Do I change it to a different fitness parameter altogether? Okay, I got my cholesterol down. Now let's work on my A1C. I've got my weight down. Now I want to get my waist down. It can be within the same vein of body comp, weight management, health improvement, but just shift gears within the same domain, so to speak. If you did a 5K, now let's shoot for a 10K. Now my goal is I want to do a 5K each month. So it doesn't need to be a stark change and kind of begin over from scratch, but just pivot towards something else that you're already doing. That way you have a why, you have a reason, you have a date on the calendar, and you're not left with I'm done. Now what? There should already be something on the horizon for that. And that's where working with a fitness professional can help with those mini goals, the intermediate goals, the long-term goals, and help keeping that going in series, just, versus having a blank slate. But I learned that very well within the physique sport realm, because I can't tell you how many times myself and others, show day comes and goes, and then they are left aimless. And it really can go in a south direction if that planning doesn't come pretty quickly afterwards.
Yeah, I think, for me, the first season, I was busy enough and I had those postseason blues. I didn't expect to have it my second season because I thought I knew what to expect. But again, to set a goal so high and so ambitious, and the emotional part of it for me, I mean, the reverse dieting was hard enough, but the mental part of not having that super aggressive goal to aim for put me in the blues for sure, that not quite sure where to focus my energy. And that can really throw, even athletes who are very competitive in various sports and events, throw them off a bit. And I think that can be challenging to find what's next. Yes.
And I think it, not to the extreme, but as we both competed, you're on the whole time up until the day of the show. You are just on, like, you have to live the lifestyle to get there. And all of a sudden it's off.
Right.
it's like it's free reins. Now there's no need to, diet so hard. There's no need to get leaner. But anyone I've worked with that has some aggressive weight loss goals, once they hit that, they've lost 40, 50, 60, 70 pounds, and then they hit it. I don't want them to be at that point where like, well, now what? I don't have to lose weight anymore. Can I go back to the way I was? My hope is that the lifestyle factors have been so ingrained and adopted. Now we can just make it a lifestyle. We're not trying to lose weight. It's just maintenance mode, which in my opinion is maintaining that is much easier than getting it all off in the first place. But I learned that lesson through physique sports, for better or worse.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important because, again, those goals can be, like you said, weight loss or health, or there's so many aspects and there's so much to learn. You're never going to be completely healthy and know everything. Unfortunately, Yep. There's no pill for that.
I've been at it for 15 years and I'm still not there yet.
Yeah. I remember years ago, one of the first 23andMe commercial you were on.
Yep. I still have that YouTube link on my LinkedIn page just for people to go check out. Yes.
So what was your experience with getting into that? Because that was before it was even a thing. And how do you use current technology and how it's advancing to help you in your position?
No, I'm actually glad you asked that question because I am big into wearable technology and how it can help with behavior change. But at the same time, I'm devil's advocate. With the 23andMe, I liked, again, the company. I liked the science. I did that mainly for the ancestry. I wanted to see how my family ancestry lined up and what my, breakdown of ethnicity was. I didn't really do it for the health side. I did that part anyway. But then when they give you a little feedback thing to fill out, like, who are you? Why are you doing this? Would you mind giving us feedback? I did it. They said I was one of the first fitness professionals that did the test, and they thought my reasoning was interesting. So we did a few phone interviews, and then they said, hey, would you mind being in a commercial that we could do? Because we'd like to get, the testimony of somebody with your background. That's where that video came from. In long story short, did I learn a whole lot that I didn't already know about health? At the time I was, 33 years old. If you haven't learned what you can or can't eat or do or how you respond, then you're just not in touch with yourself. Maybe I'm a little bit more in touch than the average Joe, but I already knew I had lactose issues. I knew I could metabolize caffeine fast. I knew I was probably a type 2 dominant athlete. Trying to think of some of the other ones. I mean, there's phenotypical expressions with how you look that I already knew. But the cool part for me was I had objective numbers. How much Italian do I have? How much German? How much French? How much British? How much Irish? That's what I wanted to know. So that was kind of insightful. But that being, one piece, there's the genetics of our health, fitness, and wellness predispositions and risk tolerance that we have. There's wearables like, I had an Oura Ring for the longest time, never had a Whoop band. I use heart rate straps, monitoring sleep. If it's a metric or it's something you want to track that is actionable, that will drive change in your life, then I say, yes, go ahead and do it. Don't track a bunch of stuff in biomarkers in values, whether it's blood values, sleep markers, step counts. If it's going to cause more stress or confuse you or you don't know what you're doing with it, don't track it. That's what I tell people. Having too much data is just going to be inundating, confusing, and make it worse than not having it. But if it is something like, hey, I want to track my steps because I have a goal to hit 10,000. I want to track my A1C because I'm going to try to get it down. I did a 2-month self-trial with a GCM, a continuous glucose monitor, because I wanted to have an experience of what it's like to wear one, take it off. Is it, accurate? Am I going to see anything I don't already know about blood sugar response? I got what I did out of that, but I didn't find a need to continue with it because I didn't really glean anything out of it I didn't already know. The one little takeaway, I was actually shocked how high my blood sugar would go after eating is something as little as 3 cups. And I mean, measured cups of cereal, and I'll admit it, kids cereal, I would go over 140 within an hour, but then within the next 30 to 45 minutes, I would tank to be hypoglycemic. So I would have to eat again within about 2 hours. So that I learned, this is why this happens. And this is consuming it with a protein shake too, which you'd think would drop down the glucose response. It didn't. I'd spike to 140 and then drop to go hypoglycemic, which that's how I respond to it. Doesn't mean everybody will, but it bothered me a bit because, and this is just me, nothing against the cereal companies, that kids eat this stuff every day, every morning. Even adults eat these types of cereals every day. And it bothers me a little bit. They're probably having it with just milk, not even like a whey protein. They're probably getting these huge spikes every day, but that's an aside. It bothered me. That's how my body responded to 3 little cups of cereal with a whey shake. My I learned that it didn't make a difference if I did or did not have alcohol, wine in particular, with a meal. I always thought that had a stronger impact on my blood sugar than it really did. So I gleaned those two things from it. Nothing else really. I've got good blood sugar control as it is. But let's say you are looking to use a CGM. Don't pay the money and go through the time of putting one on and taking it off if it's not going to change something positively in your lifestyle habits. The way that if you're going to keep eating crap, don't expect this to change anything. But if it drives you to eat better, absolutely go ahead and use it. Same thing if you're doing like macro tracking or you're looking at your HRV for recovery. If you can see you're overtrained, but you're going to keep pushing through to let yourself be overtrained, why are you measuring it unless you're using it to kind of help adjust those things? So yeah, I say use tech if it helps you be more informed and help give you direction and change lifestyle factors for the better. But if if it's not helping you change anything, or it's too inundating and it's confusing you, don't use it. That's where I would kind of put the marker down on whether or not to use a technology.
That's really great advice, but I'm going to hop back to the cereal because this has come up on other podcasts as well. Because when I grew up, it was all about the food pyramid, and we had Fruit Loops for breakfast all the time, and it was more than 3 cups probably without milk. But it's amazing how much, I'm reminded how much what we eat affects how we feel, even when it's not something that we may think is that bad. But those sugars, man, they are terrible for you. They're so addicting, and they're so not good.
Yeah, and like Raisin Bran, I'll still eat almost several times a week. I like frosted mini wheats, everything in balance and moderation, of course. But when I did Fruit Loops, I did Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I still am a 10-year-old in a 41-year-old male's body, so I still like my kids' cereals. After my workouts, that's something I go for, whey protein and cereal, because it's super easy, it's super convenient, it tastes good, and it gets me my 100 grams of carbs, my 50 grams of protein, and it never had much of a problem. But I did notice I would feel my lips will tingle, my hands will tingle, I get a kind of a moderate headache in the back of my head. That's when I know I'm going really low on my blood sugar, like a sub 60. I wanted to put numbers with it besides just a finger prick, which is what I'd done in the past. And this would happen within right about the 2-hour mark of consuming that shake in the cereal. The CGM, sorry, let me see what was happening, that, yeah, you are going really high above a 140. And then, yeah, you're tanking right after that because of the insulin release. And I'm like, well, maybe this cereal thing isn't the best thing for me to be doing post-workout anymore, even though I still, to this day, I love all those cereals. But let's bring that down, or maybe it's a smaller serving. Maybe we mix it with like something more low glycemic, because that's not doing your liver or your body, your pancreas any good by getting these rapid spikes and these low drops. So that did lead to an actionable change. And now seeing that, even my own son, he's going to be 11. I'm not going to be a food Nazi, but I'm going to be very careful and cautious with how often, he eats those kinds of cereals, because I don't want him having juvenile diabetes by the time he's 12 or 13. And if I can change those habits now to maybe more fiber rich, less sugar added cereals, I will do that. And it bothers me because 3 cups sounds like a lot. Go and measure it with a measuring cup right now. I bet most people are around 2.5 to 3 cups when they have cereal.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I think it's very interesting if people start to pay attention on how they feel with what they eat. Eliminating those things or changing those things, or adjusting the amounts, can really make a difference, whether that be with sugars, with alcohol, with gluten, with allergies, everything. Yeah. Your body, your energy level can completely change when you change what you're putting in your body. Hands down.
Yeah. My sister is exactly a perfect case, that she started really looking at and manipulating the littlest things that she was eating to find out she was having some issues with whatnot. And she was able to work with a registered dietitian that looked at women's health and hormones in particular. And once they got it dialed in, it was a game changer for her energy levels, her recovery, her workout performance. Her weight loss became much easier, because we are a collective response of the foods we put in us each day. And if it's not the right ones for your body type, your metabolism, microbiota, that whole thing, you can be actively working against yourself each day, or you can be helping yourself each day by what you put in.
Right. And it really comes down to everything you eat. I mean, like I've mentioned before, a few months ago, I made a change because my energy level was so bad. And it was really getting rid of most foods for a while just to try to let the body heal. And it was hard. But boy, your body needs that time to not have all that crap causing all that inflammation. Huge difference.
It is hard to make the change, but it does make a difference. Absolutely.
Yeah. As far as your training goes with people and your writing programs, if we talk more on the fitness side of things, as you mentioned, every case is going to be a little bit different or unique. How is it that when you're dealing with, say, the athletes who are planning for an upcoming event, what's your approach, including recovery? Like, how do you address that to make sure that people are getting that time?
Yeah. So the big picture, when I work with an athlete who's getting ready for, let's say, their marathon, their powerlifting meet, I've actually had an individual who's getting ready for a CrossFit competition. We always work backwards from whatever the date of your event or meet is to where we are now, to then see, do we have enough time to get where you want to be? We know where the finish line is. Do we have time to actually get there in the condition, the state, the performance that you want to do? And if we do, great. If not, then right from the get-go, it's my job as the professional to say, we don't have time to safely get you to where you want to be on the X day. We either need to find a different competition date, push it back a little bit, or revise our realistic goals. Because I'm not going to set them up for failure and say, oh yeah, you're going to hit a 600-pound PR on that squat, when I know we're probably going to get to maybe 500 in the time we have left without getting you hurt. So there's that piece, working backwards, and then looking at kind of their training history through questions and, kind of how their body can tolerate stress. I will use deload weeks. We will use, what I call regen days. And I call them regen days because I use them myself. I don't want them to think it's a training session. It's a regeneration day. We're not going to the gym to train, to break down, to induce breakdown or need more recovery. We are there to accelerate the recovery process. This could be a long walk. It could be a light jog. It could be foam rolling, active isolated stretching. It could be a massage. If you're into contrast baths, you could do that, the hot and the cold. If you want to use Normatec pneumatic sleeves, you can use those things. Using those on your off days as a bout. Again, I don't want to call it a training session because it's not, but it's recovery. We're worried about the tissues, about the body systems, to make sure that we are stimulating the body with recovery equal to what we're doing in the gym to break down. And I learned this front and center when I worked with paratroopers. We trained those guys and they worked harder than just about any other athletes I had. Like, the amount of physical tasks and mental stress they had to go through was a lot. It was brutal, but we had a team, an HPO team, a human performance optimization team, sports psych, physical therapy, athletic trainer, physiotherapist, strength coach, RD, working with them. If they're not in the gym training, they're working with us on recovery, with sleep, with hyperbaric chambers, with those Normatec sleeves. So we matched their output with their recovery to assure they could come back the next day and do the same thing. Most people don't have all those resources, so we have to be careful that we can push pretty darn hard. Look at pro athletes, look at Olympic athletes. We can do that with them because they have the resources, the people, the professionals in tech to accelerate recovery with them too. For the average Joe or Jane to be going into the gym for 3-4 hours a day, day after day, and then expect a recovery from that, unless you're a beast and just a genetic gift, it's probably not going to work. You're going to end up driving yourself into the ground. So I look at what that person's resources are, like how hard can I push you based on what we can do with your recovery. If you're in construction 8-10 hours a day, I can't bury you in the gym because you got to go back to work and be able to put out for your job. If you've got a desk job, I can probably push you a lot harder because you don't have a taxing job also sapping or burning the candle on the other end. And then at the same time, if we find your body starts to get aches and pains and you get your elbows and knees start to get some itises and osises going, okay, as soon as those start to flare up, we need a recovery week. And for some people, that's every 4th week. Other people, it's every 9th or 10th week. Usually the younger, it's less frequent. The older individuals, I consider myself one of those. I know if I push hard in a powerlifting cycle, every 5th week will need to be a deload. Otherwise, my elbows, knees, shoulders, ankles, hips, they start talking to me, and that's time to take a deload, where we just drop down the volume and the intensity for a little bit, come back hard again.
I think you're talking to me there. Actually, I have a coach as well, and we just had the same conversation this week where that cortisol spikes, you got stuff going on, your body gets tired, your fatigue crashes, and if you don't take that time to deload, you're just fighting against yourself. And I am not good at recovery. I think that if there's one thing that I really need to focus on, it's the sleep and recovery, because I'm a doer and it's really hard for me not to go to the gym every day.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And for me, I still feel energetic and mentally hungry for the gym, but my joints as a power lifter, and I've heard this from others, they will start to they start to complain saying, "Hey, I still hurt, I'm still hurting, please give me a break." And then it's like, okay, this isn't going to do any good to be tough and push through. Let's just give it 1 week, drop the volume a bit, and dial it back, pull in the reins. Lo and behold, I come back after that week and I'm ready to just go ham at it because all my joints feel good. And I'm more sensitive to that with my older populations. The younger bucks in their 20s and maybe even like mid 30s, early 30s typically bounce back a little bit more. But you said the other piece, I also really look at their sleep. If it's irregular or it's not close to optimal, I try to get it there, one, because I can do so much more with them if they have good sleep. And I'm the biggest candidate for this. I know I do much, much better on good sleep. But if they just can't or are not getting it, I also have to factor that in because I know their recovery is not where it could be without good sleep patterns.
And sleep patterns are something that are very hard to fix, I'm finding. I do all the things and I still don't sleep. We've had many conversations on this podcast about that too, and yet I'm not learning. I'm not doing what I should be learning because it's hard.
It's very easy advice to give, and the science is there that if you sleep 7-8 hours a night, most nights, you're basically on 100% recovery mode. Like your body's going to recover mentally and physically very well, metabolically, neurologically, you name it. However, we're human beings, not machines. We have other things going on that get in the way. Kids, jobs, stress, whatever it might be. People don't have good sleep hygiene in their rooms and their bedtimes. It's very hard to actually get into place and to convince people of the value that they're leaving on the table that they could be getting. It's just not easy to do. It's one thing to say it, hey, get 7-8 hours. It'll be magnificent. I promise you. And it's true. Getting them to do that is another thing.
Right. Because it's not always a choice. Because, you can go to sleep and then when you wake up and you can't fall back to sleep, sometimes it's not always a controllable factor.
It's not. And it's only been, at least as far as I know with the research, that maybe the past 10 years at best has it really started to glean on like we need people to get more sleep. And oh, wow, people have a lot of sleep problems from medications to stress to lights, room temperature. They're really breaking it down to the factors that contribute to sleep. And there are a lot of them.
So let's talk a little bit about all the factors and technology. We touched on it a bit, but as far as AI goes, what do you see short term, next 2 years? What do you see 5-10 years, how AI is going to impact the wellness industry?
I'm very curious as to where because I know where it's at now and it shows strong promise. There are less pieces of tech, brands, companies that have it right and pretty well dialed in than those that don't. I think there's a lot of hype out there compared to what's actually usable and tangible. And I mean, for example, Aura, Whoop, I think are the two big ones that actually have validated. And then I think there's an Apple Watch. I don't know which model and make it is. I'm Team Android. Sorry, people, but they've got a watch that have been validated against polysomnography, like an actual sleep study, to where it's not as good as that, but it's pretty darn close for something you can do at home from a watch or a band. And then with those companies kind of leading the way, as well as others coming on board, when you can start to gain insights on what that means, when I go to bed at this time, I sleep better. When I wake up at this time, I have a better REM cycle. When I eat this close to bed, this happens. When I train this close to bed, this happens. Wow, I'm actually sleeping better when I train in the morning. When I eat these types of foods, when I do this type of meditation or mindfulness, what am I doing in my life that impacts my sleep better or worse? When your AI and your device can start to inform you of this equals that or this does not equal that, now that's powerful. You've got leverage. You've got actionable tools moving you in the right direction that you otherwise didn't see associations for. And I think, we're talking precision medicine, we're talking, precision sleep, as AI can help to show you those correlations and relationships, where they exist, where they don't. Is it a strong correlation? Is it a weak correlation? Does it not matter at all? You can really start to customize what it is that you do or don't do that gets you that good sleep, that helps you eat better, manage your weight, improve recovery. I think in 5 years, we're going to be at the point where there is a device for nutrition, for sleep, for recovery, training zones, load tolerance, allostatic load variables. They will be out there. How accurate, I don't know, but they're going to be available. I'd be shocked if they're not by then.
Yeah, I think it's going to, once it gets going, and look at how much it's changed so quickly in the last 2 years. And I just think it's going to just accelerate immensely. And I'm hoping that along with, being able to analyze the data, that gives people more resources on the health side, since, clinics can be hard to get into. Doctors aren't always open to alternative therapies. So I'm hoping there's more of a well-rounded approach to wellness that is accessible for everybody.
Yeah. And I mean, there's already a few out there. Like right now, if you could have, a device that has you, in your room, and it gives a 360 view of your body. It asks you to squat, let's say do a push-up, a jump, a lunge, do a rotation, some cardinal movements as a human being that we can all do. And it's measuring the degrees of motion that you have at all the different movements compared to what you should be able to do. And then it can customize, okay, you're deficient in this range of motion, you're tight here. These muscles are underactive. Imagine how powerful that would be for a physical therapist, a strength coach who they've just got an entire readout of your primary movement mechanics. And they could, okay, we need to work on posterior chain. We need to work on squats. You've got knee valgus. You've got internal shoulder, deviations. Now you've got a prescription right there that gets sent to that professional, and they can still use clinical differentiation and diagnosis and, judgment. But I think we're going to see things like that. Like, all right, let's do your screen. 5 minutes later, AI looks at it and says, patient XYZ here, good. This is what we have to work on. I mean, it's going to be pretty amazing, I think.
Yeah, pretty exciting. But I'm glad that you still mentioned that the data will be sent to a coach or a medical professional, because there's something that a person can provide as far as feedback and as far as coaching that I don't think we'll ever get from AI.
Yeah, I have used reluctantly and resistantly, because I didn't like the idea of people asking an AI thing, build me a 12-week program for strength development. It'll give you a pretty decent program, but it doesn't know your stage of readiness, your injury history, about that past shoulder, surgery that you had, the fact that, you might have longer femurs and a wide stance squat is better than a narrow. Those little things like that it can miss. And then I asked it to do one for a patient. I wanted to see what it came out with. And it was actually pretty good, but it put decimals in the wrong place and some wrong numbers for sets and reps. They would have been using far too much weight in certain exercises, and they would have been doing 55 rep sets in specific exercises had I not caught those. The patient might not know that, hey, Josh is the expert, this is what I should do. That's going to get them hurt if they don't catch it. So it still requires a professional eye to look through and screen these things, even on things like that, just decimal places and numbers, but you don't want it putting in the wrong exercise, or maybe the order's wrong, or the complete omission that, oh, I didn't know this person had a shoulder, replacement. I didn't know they had an artificial knee. That could actually be more harm than good. A real professional would know to ask those questions and make the needed modifications.
Right. Good point. So as far as you personally, we talked a bit about your career. With your fitness journey, is there anything that you have upcoming as far as your personal goals go?
I'm still a competitive power lifter. That's kind of always my backdrop as an athlete. I just say I like to lift heavy stuff because I don't consider myself an athlete just because I can lift heavy stuff. There's people far more athletic than me. The really funny, ironic part is, I mean, you've seen me, anyone else that, looks at me like, you're probably a triathlete or a runner. And I get it. I'm 6'2", 185 pounds. I look like a runner. The thing is, I don't run at all, and I can actually date it. The last time I ran formally to run for any training was December 10th of last year, when I was getting ready for a 5K that I did with my wife. It's called the Rudolph Run that they do here around Christmas time. But I do intentionally walk about 2 to 2.5 miles a day. I try to get out each morning and walk because, again, I work from home. I don't have a lot of reason to get out and get all the activity I used to. My goal is 10,000 steps a day or more. Part of that is the 2 to 2.5 miles every morning. But my wife jokes, and so do some other people. They're like, yeah, Josh, your walking pace is most people's slow jog. And I do walk fast. I'm tall. I have a long stride length. So I don't do any real cardio for any means, but powerlifting is still the main thing. Even though I look like a runner, but then it's always shocking when this running looking guy gets on the platform and squats 400, deadlifts 500, and can bench over 200. So it's like skinny guys can be strong too. It's neurological. It's not just bodybuilder muscle size. It's technique, it's strength, it's neurological. And that ends up being its own conversation. So wait, you mean I could be strong too? Yeah, absolutely you can. But if I do 5Ks anymore with my wife, she likes to do those quite often. And the only reason I'm really against a lot of running is it doesn't help me power lift. And it's really hard to go and train running when you're squatting and deadlifting twice a week. Like you're lifting on sore legs or you're running on sore legs. So Walking, I'll walk 5Ks all day long, all week long, and that doesn't provide any interference, but I keep it simple. I just like to lift heavy and go that route. It's just what I like to do.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I also like to lift heavy, even though I'm getting a little bit lighter now just to prevent injury, but I don't like cardio. So I don't know if I will ever get back to that cardio point. Maybe, I don't know, but I don't love it.
Yeah, I strictly do it so I can walk the walk and talk the talk. I want to be 60, 70, and 80 and have a good ticker, a good heart on me, a good cardiovascular system. And I've seen and read too much research that supports having it developed as high as you possibly can, a high VO2, good cardiovascular base in your 30s and 40s. If it's built up really high, then when we do hit that ultimate, point of decline where we all start to fall apart a little bit, it's a very slow, gradual decline. And because it started so high, you can be 70 and 80 years old and still have a good cardiovascular system versus being in your 50s or 60s and being like, oh, shoot, I'm at high risk for cardiovascular disease. I should have developed this 20 years ago.
Right. Right.
That's why I shoot for the 10,000 steps.
That's a great idea and great advice for people listening too. So you as a coach and with all of your experience and all of your knowledge, if you could give one piece of advice to our listeners who are at any point in their wellness journey, what would be your advice?
I would say if you have some objective or goal, and most of us do for health, wellness, or fitness, is, as I said, find something you can start to do right now today. If it's worth it to you and has value, find something you can start doing today and every day. Some little step, drinking water in the morning, an extra 1,000 steps, eating a piece of fruit, cutting out some alcohol or soda. Start doing that today and see how that helps. Start doing anything. And the other thing is, don't be afraid to fail. I had to learn about 20 ways of what didn't work and what was just garbage information to find out what did work for me. So don't be afraid to fail and start something today.
That's great advice. So when someone does fail or feels dejected from a result or a product or whatever, that's easy to say, don't be afraid, but how do people stay the course? How do they pivot? Because you mentioned pivot earlier, and that is my word. Like that's in your business, your marriage, your wellness, everything. You have to be able to pivot.
Yeah. And learn from the mistake, learn from the failure. Why did it not work? Was it kind of doomed from the beginning? It was just something that, again, when people say, well, it worked for my neighbor, it worked for my brother, so I'll try it. Don't just do something because it worked for somebody else. Make sure it is something conducive with what you want to do with your lifestyle. Don't go and sign up for the gym that's 15, 20 minutes across town that you're not going to want to go to because it's too far away or you feel intimidated at. Join the gym that's closer, that has people that are like you, that's more welcoming, that kind of thing. Start with, maybe just walking around the block or doing something at home that make the easy choice easy to do. Don't make the right choice the hard one to do. And then this is where I'll plug my own horn as an allied health professional. Seek the help of a strength coach, a personal trainer, a fitness specialist, a dietitian, a nutritionist, and help them carve out that plan with you. If I'm going to take a route, to right now get up to New York, I'm going to consult Google Maps or a map. I'm not just going to hop in my car and hope I get there by myself. I know the general direction, but I will get lost. You wouldn't do that same thing with an area that you're not a specialist in, like nutrition or exercise or whatever it might be. Use the help of an allied health professional in that domain that can help you make that map to get from A to B as quickly and safely as possible.
So with allied health professional, is that something that's like in certain networks? Is anybody able to use it? Like, how does that program work?
I should say allied health and fitness professional. It's called REPS, the Registry for Exercise Professionals. And that's where you will find individuals that have one of the 5 major certifications and a degree in an allied health profession. So health science, exercise science, ex-phys, nutrition, something like that. They will be listed on that site because after they got their degree to even sit for the exam and then pass their exam, their exam number is put up on the REPS website. So I would just say check there to find your most credible degreed certified professionals within allied health and fitness.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And again, finding a professional and a coach and how someone to help hold you accountable, give you suggestions, can really be the big difference between success and failure in what you're doing.
Absolutely. If you're going to put in the time and effort for it, you might as well get that game plan built very, very well around you and your needs right from the start. That way there is less chance for failure, more chance for success. And you've got the professional accountability of somebody who's going to make sure you're doing it right And the biggest piece is they can troubleshoot every single week to make sure that it's working for you, not 8-10 weeks down the road. Oh, this wasn't working that well at all from the beginning. Too bad we didn't fix this at week 2 or 3.
And that's the difference between that and having to go in to see like a medical doctor. You get in and you have a visit and then you're done. Where with a coach or a professional, as you mentioned, you have that accountability on a weekly basis or regularly at least to keep an eye on what's going on and how your body's changing and how to, again, to pivot.
Yes, exactly. And since no two people are the same, it is critical to have somebody who can help look at the nuances of what does and does not work for you and your lifestyle too.
It's a great point. So if people want to follow you and get more information and follow your journey, how do they find you?
LinkedIn would be one good place. And then as far as health, fitness, wellness, nutrition, the main output that I have, the main channel or platform would probably be my TikTok. And that is just at muscles N, the letter muscles and morsels. Simple as that. So I put out a lot of content on health, fitness, wellness, research, evidence, that kind of thing.
Awesome.
But otherwise, LinkedIn.
Awesome. We'll be sure to share those links in the show notes. So before we wrap up today, I'm going to ask you the question that I ask all my guests. It's a 2-part question. The first part is if you, Joshua, could have a conversation with your past self, that 8th grade Joshua, before you made that transition into taking better care of yourself, what would you tell your past self?
Oh, that's a good one. I knew you were going to ask too. I would say, if anything, just broad is be open-minded. Because once I thought I knew something or knew a fact, well, that's the say all be all. This is the way it has to be done. And I would latch onto it. I would say, be skeptical. Use what you can use, but still be open-minded. Don't just assume that you've got it and there's nothing else to learn or you can't learn it better, whether it's strength conditioning, it's training, it's consulting, it's nutrition, diet plans. Be open-minded. I would just tell myself like that. Keep learning, but be open-minded to other opinions, other views, other methods, that kind of thing.
I think we can all use that in every aspect of our life, right?
Yeah.
So now if you can have a conversation with your future self, 20, 30 years in the future, probably working out at the gym or doing your favorite, eating Fruit Loops in your protein shake. If you could have that conversation with your future self, what would you ask them? And what do you think they would say back to you?
Oh gosh, that's a good one. I think my future self, I've never thought about talking to my future self. I guess I would ask, if they walked in the room right now, my future self, I would say, do you think I did enough to set myself up for a good life at this point? Because I have a very specific goal. I want to be a centenarian. I want to live to be 100, but a functional, healthy, independent centenarian. So looking at myself, say, what else could I have done? Did I do everything possible to get you to where you are now? And if so, tell me. And if not, what else could I do? What could I have done different to put you in a better position to be where you are now? That's what I would ask. Kind of a sounding board to that future self. Like, did I get us to that centenarian stage, or did I not? And what did I do wrong if not?
So I'm going to comment on that in a minute. But first, what do you think your future self would say? But how do you think they would answer that?
I think this is partly hopeful that they'd say, yeah, you did what you needed to get me where I need to be right now. You did everything that you could. You did everything right. That's what I would hope they would say.
I love it when the past and the current and the future self all kind of come together, because maybe your future self would remind you to stay open-minded as you continue your journey into finding that best version of yourself and making it there. Just a thought.
That's true. Now that I hear you say what my past self and future self would be, yeah, I could use my past self as advice to talk to my future self.
There you go.
That's deep. That's deep.
Who knew we were going to go there? That's awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for your time today. We love sharing these conversations with our listeners, and we will put, again, the links to all your information in the show notes. So thank you for joining us for this conversation.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks for listening to my Fit Tribe podcast. Tune in weekly for our latest episode for more health and wellness insights and inspiration. For more information, visit myfittribe.org. Please note that the opinions and comments presented here are those of the guests and do not necessarily constitute medical advice or the opinions of My Fit Tribe. Copyright 2025, all rights reserved. This podcast is a production of My Fit Tribe, LLC. The MyFit Tribe podcast is recorded and produced by Jake Johnson at Paradigm Productions in Madison, Wisconsin. If you know someone who would enjoy this episode, please help support the show by sharing.